Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Le service de police de la Ville de Montréal and the Service de sécurité incendie de Montréal would like to thank you again for attending this daily press briefing on the major fire in Place Duville. Let's start with the main steps taken yesterday. I'll hand it over to Division Chief Guilbeault.
Good morning. Yesterday's main achievement was the acceleration of the work securing the site, thanks to the second crane that we deployed on the ground. It allows us to remove several large pieces that were still unstable and poses a risk for our team, such as steel beam and part of the roof. All that work will allow us to further explore the building in order to continue the search for the victims. Once again, responders continue the search for the best of their abilities, working tirelessly from sunrise to sunset.
The pathologists and the experts of the Laboratoire de Sciences Judiciaires et de Médecine Légale are continuing to work on the identification of the second, third, and fourth victims that were found. As previously explained, it is unfortunately not possible to provide you with an estimate of the time that will be required before being able to communicate the identity of the victims who've been found. Should be reminded that before the coroner is able to give permission to release the name of a victim whose body has been recovered, three conditions must be met. The first one, the identification must be confirmed by two separate methods, one of which must be scientific. All required forensics examinations must have been completed. And thirdly, the family must have been informed by the Montreal Police investigators. We are well aware that the wait is always very hard and painful for the families. Our investigators maintain contact with them, and among other things, they've shared with them the hyperlink, allowing them to access the full contents of our press briefings so that they have access to a maximum of information. At this stage of the investigation, we can confirm that apart from the 7 people who were initially missing, we have no information indicating that additional victims are in the rubble.
So what's the action plan for today? Today's work will consist of continue to remove elements that are causing safety issue for our personnel, as well as exploring the building further in order to continue the search for the victims. At all times, we want to keep the risk of collapse below the firefighters and the police officers. It should be noted that the work done by the member of the technical rescue group allowed us to increase the pace and potentially will be able to save the facade of the building. I remind you the 4 priorities that we're still working with. First of all, safety of our personnel, search for the victim, determining the cause of that fire, and finally protecting the heritage.
In closing, please note that from now on, we will not hold a press briefing every morning. We will hold them when significant developments in the operations are known. So we will call a press briefing when needed. But rest assured that we will continue to make every effort needed to find all missing persons and to determine the cause and circumstances of this tragic fire. We are all committed to the end. Thank you.
Is there any questions in the case? Go on.
In terms of the cause of the fire, are you investigating it as a criminal affair?
Well, at this point, it is considered a police investigation. So if I bring you back to the beginning, anytime there is a fire, obviously the fire department is the first to be on the scene and to look at the possible causes of fire. In the Fire Safety Act, which is a provincial law, it is said that if there is any criminal element or if there is a person that is deceased, automatically the investigation passes over to the police. And this is the case. This is how the investigation was started and transferred to the Montreal Police Friday night. And then when we as police officers start working on a fire investigation, we start very wide. We consider all options, and this is the way we work, to be able to take into account any element. We cannot make any comment on police investigations so that we do not interfere with it. And know that in a police investigation of this sort, we consider all options, and then as we go, sometimes we can eliminate some of these options to finally pinpoint one of them, but it's not possible for us to do that in a public venue. It needs to stay confidential.
And when you say that there's no other information about any additional victims aside from the 7, how confident, what level of confidence do you have that there's nobody else in the room?
Well, it's always a possibility that we find somebody else, but what we wanted to share with you in total transparency is that we have no information indicating that they could be somebody else. It's not impossible, but we feel that it's improbable at this point that we find somebody else, but it is, unfortunately, a possibility.